You are now booted up and online. We are now in control of your primary operating system. You have chosen the AutoExec.Bat podcast. This show is a fan tribute to AMC's Halt and Catch Fire TV show. Not listening is an illegal operation and will result in a program process error.
Shall we play a game?
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Dave, and we are online again to discuss Halt and Catch Fire. Today we're talking about episode Extract and Defend. So online today we've got Jesse.
Hello, and welcome back, Dave. We missed you.
Thank you, Jesse. And we got Matt.
Hi, everybody.
So, I had the opportunity to listen to your guys' last podcast, and I want to tell you, before we jump into this episode, I think that you were a little too harsh with Cameron's character.
Okay, very nice. Why?
I was listening to your commentary regarding the fact that she didn't apologize to, was it Tom, I think, regarding working at the grocery store. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking to myself, Mackenzie Davis, she plays a great character there with Cameron. Yes. But the writers themselves, they didn't have her apologize. And I think you guys gave her a little grief for that. And I think that's exactly how a person that is technically minded, someone that's into computers or the technology a little bit more, wouldn't think to apologize in the instance. Maybe later they would think about it. But in that particular instance, they probably wouldn't come to their mind because they're more geared around the, working with machines versus actually people skills.
And I think that's a fair get, as Ron Moore used to say in his Battlestar Galactica. But my point is that she still should have apologized. Just because she doesn't think that way and see that way, I still had a problem with it. That she's giving these people a hard time, and I do think to a certain degree, if you have to change your management style if you're going to try to manage people, that are basically investing in the company themselves. And we all know she isn't that great with people, and that's why they brought in John, right? Right. So, yeah, I think that's a fair criticism. I just, like everyone else on this show, Cameron is very flawed, right?
She is. But I think the writers and Mackenzie Davis, I think they got it right, because that's the type of characteristic of a person, okay, that would be a, techie minded, would be. That was my point.
No, so, I think it's a good one. And except for that, how do we do?
No, I everything you said was great. I thought that the previous episode, I thought it was just as good as you guys thought. So I was glad to hear that.
Good. And this was written by Zach Whedon of the Whedon clan. So this current episode. So that's kind of nice to see.
Okay.
I was waiting for a Angel reference or a Dr. Horrible, but we didn't get one.
Gotcha. Before we jump into the current episode, Matt, do you disagree with what I was saying?
It does follow her character, but at the same time, it's making me like her less and less because she's treating Tom the same way that she was treated by Joe. So she's kind of repeating the same mannerisms.
I gotcha.
That makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense.
I agree. It totally does. And, to peel back the curtain, early in my career, like right when I had dropped out of college, I got a full-time job as a dispatcher, and I had a horrible boss. And one of the things I promised myself is that I would not be that kind of boss. And then the first time I had a chance to be a supervisor, I would think about what did I not like happening as an employee and tried to change. So, and she's not thinking that far. I mean, I think management to her is just anything that keeps her away from writing code and working on these games is just a distraction. It is something she just doesn't want to worry about.
Yep, exactly.
That's a good point. So let's jump right into this current episode, Extract and Defend. Obviously, I could jump right into the Joe part, but I want to jump right into the Cameron part since we just got done talking about her. She's obviously, come to amends to the fact that he's working at a grocery store because the first thing we see them in is in bed together. There's obviously no ill will towards Tom being mad at her or something like that regarding her not apologizing or, having an issue with her being late and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And it brings back, I think, a lot of good memories of remember when you were excited that a movie was coming out on whether it's VHS or DVD, I guess in 85, it probably, maybe Laserdisc? It would probably be on videotape, right? And I just, I love that, they're talking the original Terminator, they're doing, bad Arnold impersonations, and it was really fun to see them connecting, right?
Yeah, that was definitely a good 80s tie-in with the Terminator, and then later on we get to see them watching the VHS. So yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah, just happened to be the same week that the Terminator movie opened, so it's just again, and they really have some really good PR for that movie.
Yeah, I had not thought of that, though it fits the timeline, and it is a considered a classic, right? So very funny, yes. Yes, it and I thought it was interesting, John seeing, as I wrote it, Cameron's boy toy or Tom leaving out the bedroom window, right? And John kind of sees everything, and is him added back to the mix has been a good addition.
Yeah, over the last 2 episodes, I've just really liked what they've been doing with John.
Yeah. So, real quick, what did you think about him giving the car?
Oh, the Mustang.
Yes.
I thought, I love the fact that he did that. I was trying to reconnect with his son, obviously. And I guess not too recently I'd heard the song Cats in the Cradle. And yes. I was thinking the exact kind of thing. That's probably how he felt. He felt the guilt with not being there. And, this was kind of his way to give something, a better than normal, wedding gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have much, but I want to give you that. Yeah. Matt thought it was a little cliche, and I certainly saw that. And I recognize that he's probably right. But, I just was watching it with my heart, I guess, instead of my critical eye. Right. So just was curious.
I was kind of curious. Why doesn't John get any money from Cardiff Electric?
Because he was in jail. And so
that doesn't erase his stock options.
That's a great question. I would assume that because he was, took the rap, the blame for the embezzlement and the moving of the phones that he did, that kind of null and voided any agreement he had with him, and that's why he didn't get any money.
I suppose, but
now you do think it's a little funny that, the owner of Cardiff, when he had to steal it, said, "You made my best friend go to jail."
Yeah.
You would think he would have given him a little something, right?
Yeah, final loophole. I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, great point.
But it's just one of those minor things that was just annoying me. Like, just leave a big gaping hole in the plot.
Okay, good. I think that's a fair one.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even challenge it. So that's a good point.
Just if he had stock, then he has stock. I can't
you're
imagine
right. You're right.
taking
You're right.
it away just because he supposedly embezzled money. Maybe they can. I don't know. I have no idea.
So then going back to the beginning of the episode, before we had the Cameron scene, we had Joe, and they received the prenuptial agreement. What do you guys think about that?
I thought it was. I knew it was coming. I had a feeling it was coming, and I really like. Honestly, this season's been making me more like Joe more this season than last season. And his reaction to it, of not knowing it, but knowing that there's something wrong, and just his downtrodden look to his face, like everything's starting to fall apart and I have no control over it. I just love that little scene.
I thought it was an interesting way to start the episode, considering how it ends. Joe's getting woke up in a very special way, and he's told, well, I know why I like Dallas better than Austin, because you're here. That relationship crushed quickly, right? I think it was a good thing to show them being happy, everything's good, but there's a false because, Joe doesn't know how to be honest. Even though he's trying to do this differently, it's in his nature to not admit till things are finished. Don't include this.
Yep.
But that prenup, I mean, that was sent by her father, right?
Oh yeah, and I'm sorry, that's what you specifically asked. I think
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly acceptable. Now, I don't have any money. My lovely bride didn't have any money, so there was nothing in there. But I do think that I would not be offended if I was getting married to someone who was significantly wealthier than I am to do that. And I understand the layers on it, but it just wouldn't bother me because this kind of gives you the idea that I'm not marrying you for your money, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, but her first reaction was to get annoyed, grab the phone, and then just get herself locked in the closet or whatever it was that she was in, and start calling.
Yeah, she's incredibly insulted. She doesn't think her father should make him do that. But I just think her father tends to be. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Matt.
The best way to describe it is Joe. What's the fiance's name? I forget. Joe's fiance and her father, they're all alphas, and they're all trying to control each other. And so when one's trying to control the other one gets pissed off or mad.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Kind of between two men. So, Dave, how about you? Would you be offended? Do you think? First off, do you think she should be offended that her father is trying to protect her and himself? And should Joe have been offended that this is happening?
That's an excellent question. She knows his history. She knows the way he is, and because he's been very, what we can see is he's been very open to her. So this shouldn't surprise her that her father is trying to protect her. But to the father's perspective, he's looking at Joe as the snake oil salesman, and so he's obviously just trying to protect the money and his daughter. So I understand the motivation as to why he would have done what he did. And, to Joe's credit, towards the end of the episode where he actually signs it, sorry, spoiler alert. But, just the, I guess, I guess I understand the reason why everything was done. I almost feel that, in your getting into a marriage together, you got to have some sort of level of trust, and you don't need a legal document to do that.
Yeah, I can see that. I just, well said. I kind of overthink it maybe and just say, hey, if you are not marrying, if you have no, and this is maybe where I'm being overly, naive, if you aren't trying to, if you don't have anything to fear, then there's nothing wrong with that, signing it.
Right.
But I certainly, I understand her saying, Dad, quit trying to control me, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
After the scene with Cameron, then we're jumping into Donna just wanting a beer when she gets home.
Yeah, I love that scene. That's such a great scene.
And just so you know, a lot of my young adulthood was in Southwest Louisiana, and specifically Lake Charles, and so crew change was a common thing where a lot of offshore rigs, you're 7 on, 7 off, and so you worked normal 12-hour shifts, and so you'd work nights or days, and so you would get off 7 in the morning. The tugboat would bring you in, and so you'd get back in shore 8 or 9 in the morning, and you've been working, so you drank. And I used to have, I managed a team that was a second shift. They had a second shift. And so, midnight, 1 a.m. when they got off work, it was just like getting off at 5. They drank. So, good on Donna. A breakfast beer is a good thing.
Yeah. She suddenly realizes halfway in, she's like, takes one sip and goes, "Oh crap, I'm pregnant." She completely forgot that she was pregnant.
Yeah, I took that as in it was not settling right because she's pregnant, but I like your thought better. I think that's a really good idea that he went, "Oh crap, I shouldn't do this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a rough day. I just need something, and then oops, wait a minute.
Yep. Exactly. She just had a rough day. She just wants to get home and relax, and
the beer's just going to help.
Yep.
So, a further scene has one of the best Cameron quotes that I've heard from this season yet, and I just love this, where she says, "We don't give refunds to people that are too thick to figure out the game." I love that.
Yeah, I did too, and I liked how, he's explaining the problem, and he's like, "This is either a bug or whatever," and she, kind of gives him a hard time and then gives him a clue on how to get past that part. So I do think it's kind of cool that they do have local users that just know where to drive up and go, "Hey, dude, I'm having problems and what to do." So, yeah, that was a great scene.
And he's having problems, and he doesn't pay. That's the other part of the scene.
Yes, absolutely.
I would be completely on board with this Chet guy being being a regular. Yeah, just be so funny.
He would be. That I'm right there with you. It is funny that a lot of times the clients who do not pay their bills feel like they can complain the loudest. They have no shame the fact that they're, 60, 90, 120 days past due. They're just like, "Don't you worry about that. I'm focused on you got to take care of me."
Yeah.
Not that I'm speaking from experience in my real life.
But then later on, I guess Chet was booted out by Joe. Or John, I mean. Sorry. Yeah. So, I mean, would you have that loyal customer, that, as Cameron put it, he's the guy that's been with us from the beginning.
It's just using them. He's just using them to get free games now. It's like you can't keep that around. It's the most weirdest business ever. It's like,
yeah,
she doesn't want to make money.
And I understand her point, and I probably would have given a final warning to him before cutting him off. But I do think that John is trying to put business rules. Once again, we have this discussion in my real life sometimes where an employee has an attendance problem, and the argument will be made, but when they're here, they're absolutely an amazing employee. And, I have to go, but if they're not here, it doesn't matter how amazing they are. And so it doesn't matter how loyal he is. It doesn't matter how long he's been. If he's not paying the bill, he's not a good customer.
No, I agree with you. I was playing devil's advocate with that, but
I think it's it's something to think about, right? I mean, you just kind of, and once again, that's why Cameron and Donna need John to help them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because, and it goes to the fact of what I was saying earlier with the Cameron character. She is so into the technology around the ideal of mutiny, and she's not looking at it from a business perspective.
Exactly.
Now, let me see. Another quote that I loved in this episode was from Gordon, and he says and he's talking to Joe this time. He says, "You're a changed man. You're Joe McMillan. You can make them jump off a bridge if you wanted."
Yeah.
And I love that quote by Gordon when he's trying to convince Joe at this point to have that meeting with either Cameron or Donna and his boss.
Yeah, that's just a great way to showcase that how much Joe has changed in 2 odd years.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years since the last show. Yeah, it's just amazing to me that Joe needed a pep talk.
Yeah, and I think, he had a good point, right? Because the James Cromwell character, who I can never remember, actually said that isn't very long. Jacob Wheeler, he said 3 weeks isn't very long. So Joe ended up meeting that objection, as Gordon said he would. But, Gordon's instincts were right on that Joe could take care of this. And I also thought it was very interesting that he was able to, his future father-in-law, Wheeler, liked that he took the initiative. You're hungry. I'm glad you did this. He wasn't upset at all that he had done this behind his back. So, which is cool.
It is. Something I wanted to throw a shout out to is, I don't know if you guys pay attention to the background stuff a lot, but there's a t-shirt that Cameron was wearing that says, "I survived the Texas heat wave of 1980. Did you guys notice that?
I did not, but was 1980 when they had that was a set a record for the most days over 100?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I did not catch that.
Yeah, in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, there were temperatures that exceeded 100 degrees Fahrenheit a total of 69 times. It was a total record 42 consecutive days from June 23rd to August 3rd. And yes, thank you, Wikipedia, for giving me that information. I
thought it was cool. I thought it was cool that they mentioned that he had to go pick up the Terminator movie from Sunset Video.
That was a good point. In fact, there's another shout out a little later on in the episode to something that you brought us to. What was the name of the company?
Playnet. That's just
Right,
like
right.
Playnet. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I was like, hey, they listen to our podcast.
Yes, they did, and I love how she went, oh no, they're not anything like this. Ours is so much better.
Which
Yeah,
is
they make
impossible.
a pretty good version of Hangman, is what she said.
Yeah, exactly.
And whatever Mutiny's doing on a Commodore 64 is just basically impossible.
Yep.
But I won't ask. We won't ask the tough questions.
What do you think about Gordon having brain damage? I think you guys had, I think it was Jesse, you were talking about feeling that it was going to be something a little deeper than his coke habit on one of the earlier podcasts. So I think you called that one right.
Thank you. Yes, I did. I thought it was a brain tumor. I didn't really understand so I had to do a little hand wave on, what exactly did he, what kind of dangerous material did he do that hurt his brain? But very, very interesting. And I really felt for him because, he doesn't just want to throw that in Donna like, hey, guess what? I could be dying. He wants to talk to her, and she's too busy. And he keeps trying to like, hey, can we go to dinner? Can we do? And she's just like, oh, not now, babe. Not now, babe. And what I think is going to be funny is once he finally tells her, she's going to be, why didn't you tell me sooner? And he's going to go, I tried.
I don't know if that scene will happen, but I just like the fact that they laid out the parts of him having brain problems in the first season. So he had all these hallucinations in the first season, and now we find out why he had the hallucinations, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, it is a good point. I didn't even put that connection together from the first season. Yeah. Yeah, that explains a lot. Yeah, and I think as far as him having brain damage, I mean, it's going to just ump the drama, that much more. We needed something to happen with Gordon.
Now
Other
everybody's
than
got a secret.
exactly, that's exactly what we needed. Everyone to have that, that little thing that's kind of burning away at them that they need to tell somebody about, but they can't, or they haven't been able to.
I gotta tell you, Donna cleaned up nice for that little fantasy scene in the dance club.
Oh yeah, exactly. I thought that was a little too random of a scene, though.
It was a little random.
So I wondered where he was going. Was that Confetti's, which was one of the huge, discos, back in the Dallas area. It was odd that he did that. I just don't understand. I might understand more just going to a dark bar and having something to drink, but to do that seemed strange.
I think he was trying to, because I think he explains it to his mother-in-law later about how he's kind of going down memory lane, I guess, because he's thinking that he's got a ticking time bomb in his head, and now he can drop dead at any moment. So he's going back and he's trying to remember happier times, so he doesn't have to think about the future.
Right, and yeah, good point. Even before we got to the part where he was talking to his mother-in-law, we had him just remembering that, and it's just at that point it felt too random.
Yeah, it felt random, but
yeah,
I think they explained it nice later on in the episode.
Right. And then what's the deal with her expecting the money back? I mean that just seemed kind of mean. I don't know.
So I didn't. Now, first off, I have had a crush on Annette O'Toole since 48 Hours. When she showed the red freckles on her body. So I have had a major crush on her forever, and I was worried this was going to go a little weird that, there'd be a little mother-in-law, Mrs. Robinson thing going on. So
Okay.
I was very glad that didn't go there.
That's a weird thought to have. That never crossed my mind.
I don't understand why, when he got that big check, that they didn't immediately go to her parents and say, thank you so much, and make the offer. Because I think they should pay her back.
Honestly, it was just back to I think there's a scene in the first season where Donna's parents are complaining about Gordon and about Gordon leading them down this path, and it's just the same cycle of them building the computer that failed. So I don't remember what it was called, with Spectra or something like that.
I think they said Symphonic or something like that.
Yeah, Symphonic.
Right. And
so that's the reason why she's asking for the money back, is that she's never appreciated Gordon at all. She's never liked Gordon. So anything he does is just going to be an automatic failure. So asking for the money back is just a way to, I don't want to say stick it to him, but it's kind of like that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what's the end game for Gordon here? I mean, is he kind of like setting himself up so that he's able to, have a clean slate when he cashes out? Is that kind of where the character is going? Or
yeah, that's exactly what the whole episode was just him making amends. That's why he was kind of took the drink offer from his mother-in-law. Right.
Yeah, I do wonder what he's going to do, and I also think that the Susan character knew exactly what she was doing. Like when he's talking about how good you've been, I think she saw that as an opening, and I thought it was kind of unnecessary, a kind of kick in the cojones when she goes, Donna would never owe us anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like I said, I think that when they got their big payout, they should have gone to her mom, and I understand why you didn't in this strained relationship, but at least said, thank you for all your help. You were there for us. We want to pay you back.
Probably didn't even cross their mind because Donna was already busy with mutiny 24/7, and
so.
All right. Well, we can't kill off Gordon. So I'm starting it now. Hashtag save Gordon.
Save Gordon. Absolutely.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jesse. I interrupted you.
No, that was all I had to say. All I was going to say is, I think it's funny, right, that the kids want to go play with, what do you call it? Nintendo. They're fighting some kind of, turtles or, very funny. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what game that was?
Super Mario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has to be. I think it was playing in the background too. If you listen, I think it was playing in the background. You can clearly hear the Super Mario sounds.
So now, what do you guys think of the programmers calling Joe Admiral Eyebrows?
I love it. I think it's great. And I love that, no, I never did, but I will now.
Yeah.
It was just funny. I don't know. It didn't even really occur to me about his eyebrows.
But yeah, I as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Oh, that's great. We're going to have to start calling Joe Admiral Eyebrows on the podcast now."
Absolutely, and it is such a great, it's so on point. And I don't know about you two, but I kept looking at his eyebrows after that was said, going, "Yep, those are some pretty eyebrows."
Yeah, shout out to Lee Pace and his eyebrows.
Yeah. It's gonna be some mime somewhere about Lee Pace's eyebrows.
All right, so another great quote that we got from John. That he says, that machine wasn't art, but it was sound business. At Mutiny, you have a lot of the former and not much of the latter. I love that quote by him.
Yeah, I do too, because his point is, all you guys talked about this being a thing of beauty, and we're going to change the world. But the bottom line is, we want to make a system that we can sell that's a good product and make us money. That is what a company is. I thought it was really great, and I don't know if Cameron is going to let John do the things he needs to do to get this company up and working.
God, you'd hope so. After a while, you just go, don't you guys like to eat?
But, I mean, one of the other things that Cameron says, though, is, I just want everyone to leave Mutiny alone. It's mine. So, I mean, would she, allow that kind of control to John?
No, because she hasn't let Donna do anything.
Right.
And Donna's got all the obvious ideas. She won't even listen to them. So she's not listening to anybody still.
But you would think if anybody she was going to be listening to, it'd be John, though.
You would think so, but she doesn't even like that John got her a new chair.
Yeah.
I mean, this is someone who doesn't want any changes. She only embraced communities, because she replied all to everyone. And, she kind of, Donna was able to say, that feeling of intimacy you had. I did like they've discovered online dating now. So that's, like, oh, I had a cousin like that, because you were talking to a man. So
that's funny.
So I had another shout out to the prop department on this one. The Sports Illustrated, they had the Great One Gets Greater, Gretzky being on the cover. It's the February 18th, 1985 edition of Sports Illustrated. I thought it was just really great how she was able to tie that into her pitch, Cameron's pitch, to being able to make Mutiny sound better than it was.
Yeah, and this just goes back to what she's learned from Joe and how she's much more like Joe than she even realizes.
Right.
Yeah, and I like how she talked about how did Gretzky get this, and then I like the fights.
Yeah, yeah, she did say that, didn't she?
Yeah. So and it's a little bit out, because I would guess in the middle 80s there would not be a lot of hockey fans in Texas, unless she grew up. I mean, I guess she would understand. I mean, everyone who Gretzky was, but that's like knowing Muhammad Ali, whether you're a boxing fan or not. But it seemed a little weird, and I don't know if she picked it up from the Sports Illustrated cover and just kind of did it, or did she actually mean that she was a fan?
Yeah, I think it almost felt like she had just noticed the magazine cover there and, just used it, in her ability to pitch to him. She'd kind of used a sales technique, if you will. As she would have picked up from, the John and Joe, influences in her life. And in fact, that's such a much different Cameron than I have gotten used to.
Yeah, and I thought it was good to see her in that role, and doing that, because he was concerned, right? He wanted Donna to be the one,
right?
But this was it, and she did a great job. She convinced You know,
It was to see the thing is that it was the whole thing was just an act to her. It was just a play. She just played
just
him.
playing a role. Okay.
Yeah, because that's
And
not the way she works. That's not the way she is at
and
all.
and I also like the fact that she goes, "Oh, I know I'm not the mark now. He's the mark." And like, no, I really love Sarah. Oh, so you just happen to fall in love with a billionaire's daughter?
Yeah.
Which is a little unkind, but not necessarily totally untrue.
No.
And I love that. I love the fact that you brought that up because to me, she echoed exactly the way I've been feeling about Joe this whole season. I want to like him for the guy that he's being portrayed as for season 2, but I keep waiting for that other shoe to fall. And she called it. She's like, I didn't think around who's the mark. Who's getting slammed this time. So yeah, I thought that was great.
My feelings towards Joe changed after he showed general care for Gordon after Gordon collapsed. That's when my feelings towards Joe changed. Because I don't think he would have cared in the first season.
Yeah, and I do think he's trying to do better.
So I'm the only one that feels that there's still something going on where he's...
No, I still think that there probably something will pop up, but for now I'm kind of in the pro Joe camp.
The pro Joe being a positive guy, being not looking to burn
screw anybody over.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's what I'm keep waiting to happen, and I'm probably more like Cameron at this point.
Yeah, and I think he's trying to use his powers for good. But, the dark side is deep in him to, do this 80s thing, and so I don't know if it's necessarily going to work, or is he going to be able to do things?
All right. So those are actually the notes that I had for today's discussion. Do you guys got anything else that we didn't cover?
Well, we didn't cover the end of the episode where Joe's fiance basically left him.
Good point.
So we might see the old Joe come out, because why would he need to keep going working at his father-in-law's place after he has no interest doing it anymore?
Yeah, he doesn't have his anchor, but I think he still has his hooks into that company, though.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
I felt it was a little uncharacteristic that she had such a big change. And I guess it's because she felt his betrayal, and she didn't want to live with a liar. And I think maybe she's worried he still cares about Cameron. I felt as crazy as Joe is, and I think that tells you a lot about the likability of Lee Pace, right? That you start to feel for him, and you have a little sympathy that he's getting, dumped. I thought that was very interesting. I also, the other thing we didn't talk about was John's, date and his credit card, being declined, and he, speaks to the young African American guy. Let me talk to the manager. I am the manager. And he's like, and it isn't that John. It's because he knew the guy beforehand that used to run it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yes. And I just was a little confused on the timeline. Like, why didn't he? He sat at the bar all long enough for Cameron to go. And I'm sorry, Dallas is a big city. So, not necessarily is that close to where Mutiny is at. So it could have taken her 30, 40 minutes to get there. And, that was a little weird.
So him sitting at the bar instead of interacting, right,
with his date. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, how do you pull that off, though? I mean, let's just have another water.
Yeah, I guess you just keep talking and, and maybe let's order dessert and tell the guy, look, I've got someone coming. Here's the keys to the Mustang that I don't own anymore. Here's my watch. Hold something.
No, it was pretty obvious in the beginning of the scene is that John was just not having a good time at all. So he found any way to get away from his date.
Oh, you didn't think he was enjoying her? I thought he was. I thought with her talking about, indecent exposure and all this stuff, I thought the date was going okay till he found out that, his cards were all maxed out and he couldn't pay. And it's like, man, it's our first date. I can't ask her to pay.
I think it became obvious when he was sitting there on the porch and talking to Donna, about, how he felt about the date. I think it became obvious then, but I wasn't sure during the course of the date, how that was going.
And when he said I've had better, I assume it because the way the financial thing happened, not necessarily the date, but you guys could be right.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. His look on his face was kind of like disgusted to me, but maybe that's just the way he is. He wasn't very engaged in the conversation, that I noticed.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, I thought there's no treatment for Gordon. I think, Cameron she is really upset that Gordon Donna keeps seeming to be in her business, and she's very possessive. We've already talked about that. So no, I think that's everything I had.
Well, I was wondering what you guys' predictions were for how Joe's going to be involved with Mutiny. Is he going to be just a connection for their, to stay online? Or is he going to be more involved with Mutiny in the future?
I think he's going to be more involved with Mutiny because he's going to see a business that's failing, and if the business fails, then his whole plan of selling that timeshare for the servers is going to fail with it. So he can't let Mutiny fail.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. It's very clear that what John's role should be, but it is a little bit unclear what Joe brings to them except the servers. And you wonder, with him not having a relationship with Jacob's, Sarah anymore, is Jacob Wheeler going to be still putting up with him, So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to see what they're going to do the rest of the season.
Yeah, and that was exactly it. I didn't know, what to be expecting from Joe as far as his interaction with Mutiny. With her now, seemingly out of the picture and not having the tie to the, the company he's working for. Is he still going to be involved with that company and being their broker for their connection? Or is he going to have a bigger role directly with Mutiny? So, yeah, I didn't know how to read that. All right, so, Matt, did you have anything else that we didn't talk about?
No, I think we covered everything. Did like Donna and John's scene on the porch where John tells her, I think she's pregnant. I think Cameron's pregnant.
Oh, yeah, that was a good dialogue with them.
Yeah.
Where she kind of came clean with admitting to somebody that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so what's interesting, right, is Gordon and Donna both have big secrets. They're not telling each other.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, I hope they fix that pretty soon.
And that was actually a point that you brought up on a previous episode where we were talking about where a lot of these dramas are because these people don't actually talk to each other.
Yes, and it is one of my pet peeves because if you would resolve it, if having a conversation resolves the issue, you've got to tell me a reason why they're not having a discussion. And so I assume that Donna is trying to process it herself. Oh my God, we have 2 older children. We can't have another child. What am I going to do? And then he's trying to find time to tell her and not just drop it off. Hey, by the way, on your way out, here's a cup of coffee or breakfast beer. And, I have brain damage.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that Donna's not telling Joe is because of what Cameron said, and everybody's viewing her as being saddled with having kids instead of being successful at her job. And so she doesn't want to kind of burden anything on anybody now.
Right.
She's trying to carry it all by herself, which she probably shouldn't be doing at all.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, it's probably the very reason why she hasn't said anything to anybody, because she's worried about the perception.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is that. The 80s was better than the 50s or 60s, but it still is that female bias.
Right.
So, yeah. Good.
All right. So now, during the last episode, you guys actually went away from my grading scale. So are we going to the Jesse scale, where we come up with a various number and give it something to make each other giggle? Is that
No. I'm going to keep doing that because that's my thing, but you guys don't have to. I like our bytes and gigabytes and megabytes. I just keep getting them confused.
I gotcha.
So, yes. No, I like that system. So remind us and our listeners what our 3-tier system is.
We grade it on a 3-point scale. So the number one, so it'd be the lowest denominator would be a byte. The next scale up is kilobyte. The next scale up is megabyte. If all 3 of us agree that the episode is a megabyte, then it graduates to a gigabyte. Now, So for this particular episode, the way I feel about it, I feel very strongly about it because it gives us a lot of drama that we expect from Halt and Catch Fire. So I'm giving it the top tier on this one. I'm giving it the kilobyte, or the megabyte, sorry. See, I even messed up my own scale.
I noticed that. All right. I'm going to give it an 8 Unresolved Secrets, which I think would translate to a megabyte as well.
Okay.
And I'm going to give it a megabyte as well, and I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. Can't we get a coffee station here? Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. This was a really good episode. We find out what's going on with Gordon. We get Cameron meeting Joe, starting to interact. So I certainly hope that the show finds a few more viewers. I know it is not doing well rating-wise, and I really want a 3rd season with this group. I think it's a great story, and I love spending time with these characters, even when some of them are unlikable.
Yeah, actually, I think there is a Twitter group that is around making sure that there's a petition involved in saving Halt and Catch Fire. Let me verify that group before I say it out loud.
Because we need more people watching.
We most definitely do.
I wonder what the Netflix viewers have watched the first season or not. That would be interesting to see if it gets picked up by somebody else.
Yeah, the Twitter group is at Halt Petition. So I would definitely recommend that once they get something online around that, getting a petition going for ensuring that we get a season 3, that everybody jumps on board and signs that. But obviously, watching would be more important.
Watching live is always more important.
Yeah.
So every Sunday night at 10 o'clock,
Yes.
check your local listings.
Dave, tell us that hashtag again.
At Halt Petition.
Okay. All right. So there's the shout out.
Yep, definitely a shout out to their Twitter.
Okay.
You know, we should go through. Matt, where are you at on Twitter?
I'm at Matt McLean 73.
And Jesse.
I am at Twitter at JWJ170104. And yourself, sir?
I am at 80s Reboot.
Very nice. We got a nice review for the system. I saw you tweeted that. So please keep us going. And, tell us what you think, what you're feeling. And spread the word, not only about the show, but about the podcast. And we'd love some more reviews and ratings.
Most definitely.
Mm-hmm. Good.
All right.
So I guess the only thing left is Control-Alt-Delete, and we call it an episode, right?
Very good.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.